Project Censored uncovers the top 25 national news stories censored by corporate media. We sat down with Professor at Sonoma State and Director of Project Censored, Peter Phillips, to get the scoop.
Every year, the project researches the most important news stories that the corporate media has uncovered. But there's people like Steve Wilson and Jane Acree at Fox TV that are trying to expose bovine growth hormone in milk, BGH, and in dairy products, and saying this isn't good for you. There's scientific evidence that this in your bodies can lead to causes tumors in rats, and it can be harmful. They lose their jobs over that. And Fox, tells them essentially, and they sue for, getting fired for losing their jobs because they're whistleblowers, and they ultimately lose because Fox says it's not against the law to lie to the public. And it's not. It's an FCC rule, but it's not a law. It's not a law. People in Europe, people in other parts of the world, they laugh at us. I mean, they know so much more about what's going on in the world and what the powerful are and how the military, industrial, media elite in the United States dominate our society in terms of what we're told and what we're informed. That it's just a propaganda control mechanism of understanding, of people knowing what the parameters are. And the problem is that, like, Pravda means truth in Russian. And the people in the Soviet Union knew that was a government, Pravda was the government news, and that it was totally controlled, and they couldn't really necessarily believe anything, and they would try to go out and find other news sources whenever they could. Here in the United States, people don't realize that the corporate media is the Pravda of the United States. 118 people on the boards of directors of top 10 media corporations. They're interlocked with about 25% of the corporate 1,000. So yeah, they're on the oil companies, they're on the military companies, they're on the drug companies and the pesticide. I mean, all of that is interpenetrated, and so they have an agenda to protect their corporate interests.
Wait a minute. Stories are being censored to protect corporate interest? There are hundreds of different channels. It seems absurd that all of these channels are conspiring to censor information from the public. That's when we found that all of these news stations, channels, and other media outlets are all owned by 6 corporations. So how does this media structure protect the corporate elite? Well, let's start at the top. Here are the 6 corporations, or the big 6. General Electric. You may also recognize them as NBC, Telemundo, and Universal Pictures. Walt Disney, or ABC, the History Channel, and ESPN. Viacom, or MTV, BET, and Paramount Pictures. CBS, who in 2004 split from Viacom, who owned CBS Radio, CBS Television, and Showtime. News Corporation, or Fox News, the New York Post, Wall Street Journal, and MySpace. And Time Warner Inc., or CNN, Time Magazine, or Warner Brothers. These 6 corporations have become the voice for America, but how they protect the corporate elite is still a mystery. So we investigated. Introducing the corporate family tree. Every corporation has a board of directors and executives, but they don't just serve one corporation. They sit on numerous corporate boards, think tanks, lobbies, institutions, and government agencies. For example, Alan Lewis, the independent director of Walt Disney, or ABC, and director of Halliburton, the company contracted to rebuild Iraq. Is there a conflict of interest because he sits on a media board and on Halliburton? Could the corporate board member be invested in the war? Viet Den from News Corporation, or Fox News, and author of the Patriot Act. Why is the media board member writing legislation for the government that undermines our civil liberties?
There are those that would ask the question, why would our government be involved in such a horrendous act of terrorism? Or what would the motive possibly be? Well, let's remember a couple of things. First of all, it's been said that those that forget their history are destined to repeat it. And it's also been said that history was written by those that hanged the heroes. We're now just finding out, and it's becoming common knowledge, that the attack on Pearl Harbor wasn't the surprise attack we were all told it was. In fact, The powers that be knew days ahead of time that the attack was pending. And then there's the Northwoods documents that were released in 1961, in which the Joint Chiefs spelled out plans to attack their own ships, sink battleships, let off bombs, and have terrorist attacks here in the United States to instill patriotism and raise anger against the communists so that we could find an entry into the Cold War. We all know that war makes money, and the events at Pearl Harbor and the very existence of the Northwoods documents should represent a mindset and a clear intent of the powers that be to involve themselves in clandestine operations and to sacrifice the lives of our men and women in uniform and civilians as well, as long as it will legitimize their involvement in some sort of a military conflict. Let's look at the world situation today. The United States is the only remaining world superpower. Russia is our best friend now, or so we're told, and China is our biggest trading partner. Simply ask Walmart or Dollar General or any other major retailer where most of the goods are manufactured in China. Well, if there is no world superpower boogeyman or enemy to be watching over, well then what better enemy to have than a nameless, faceless enemy without a country that can strike at will in any corner of the globe? The war on terror. A war that, as Dick Cheney has said, could last for decades. Yes, war means money. And defense contracting is the largest industry in the country, if not the world. Billions, if not trillions of dollars are awarded to defense contractors every year. And they'll manufacture $75 hammers or $600 toilet seats, grossly overcharging the American taxpayer. Where does all this extra money go? And now we have to ask the question, how do defense contractors guarantee job security and profitability? And the common sense answer is to guarantee that there is war. Well, you might ask, why doesn't the mainstream media tell us about this? Why hasn't Tom Brokaw or NBC News told us? Well, as an example, NBC is owned by General Electric. General Electric is one of the top 10 defense contractors. Keeping this information in mind, it should be easy to understand how and why the United States would create an Osama Bin Laden. Osama Bin Laden was a CIA asset. He was trained by and funded by the CIA. He was put into power by the CIA, and he had substantial financial ties to the current administration. Saddam Hussein was also supported by the United States government. He was given agricultural credits, which he then used to purchase illegal chemical and biological weapons, according to Senator Donald Riegel's report. Question: is it not outside the realm of possibilities that the United States would create a boogeyman, create an Osama bin Laden or a Taliban or an Al-Qaeda, on which they could place the blame of the events of September 11th and other yet-to-occur terrorist acts? Now, you've seen enough evidence in this presentation to know that we are dealing now with a conspiracy. There is plenty of evidence to support it. The conspiracy theory, in fact, is the idea that Osama bin Laden had something to do with the attacks of September 11th. Let's not forget that on September 23rd of 2001, Condoleezza Rice, National Security Advisor, had stated that they had evidence that linked bin Laden with the terrorist attacks and that they would release that evidence in due time. Well, America and the world are still waiting for that evidence. And in that time since September 11th, we've launched not one, but 2 wars in Afghanistan and Iraq based upon no evidence or a conspiracy theory.
Our war is against evil, not against Islam.
We don't hold any religion accountable. We're fighting evil.
What we've seen on this video should give us all cause to stop and rethink everything that we've been told about September 11th. The media and our government have relentlessly pounded into Americans' minds that it was terrorists wielding box cutters that were responsible for the attacks in America on September 11th. There is one truth that's come out of this, though, and that is that there is a war on freedom. But the war on freedom isn't being waged by those that they say it is. After all, how many of your freedoms have been legislated away by Osama bin Laden or the Taliban or Al-Qaeda or Saddam Hussein? The answer is none. Your freedoms have been legislated away by the very people who take oaths to defend your freedoms. Republicans and Democrats alike, your Congress, your Senate, your President. There is a war on freedom. And now, thanks to the Homeland Security Bill, the Patriot Act, the Terrorist Bill, the Model States Emergency Health Powers Act, we have thumb scanners and retina scans and face recognition, metal detectors. At the airports, we have body scans and body cavity searches. Yes, there is a war on freedom. And let's not forget what George Bush had said in regard to conspiracy theories.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
Much calmer situation and a much better evacuation. And these people.
My son was ordered!
Let's ask some real questions. Is that unfair? And what about the bunker? You didn't ask him about the bunker, the Office of Emergency Management bunker on fire?
We are getting ready for the next panel.
Remember this. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda. Repeat it again. Your government funded and trained Al-Qaeda.
And now I ask all of America and the people of the world, where's your line in the sand?